Hey, I'm Cesaros, and in this podcast, we talk about tech. Today, I am with a very special friend. We met in my last job. If you heard my last rant, we knew what happened, but we met in the last job and we did a couple of things together, and we were trying to figure it out this conversation. Engineer manager, content creator, so it's a very interesting combination. Vitor, how are you?
Good. Yeah, thanks for inviting me for the conversation today. Happy to see you again. Yeah, so maybe I can just like explain what like engineer manager, content creator, who the heck are you, right?
Yeah. What are you doing now? Because I thought you were leaving the job to start your career as a content creator, but not. You just have to work.
Yeah. So I think I was not happy enough with having one job. Like, let me have two or three, how as much as I can, right? But yeah, so my name is Vitor Alencar. I'm from Brazil, right? And I have been doing a lot of things for like community, like a lot of talks, videos, creating a lot of content. And nowadays, I work in a startup called Fin. It's a startup from Munich, but I work remote here in Berlin, where I live in Germany. And yeah, I'm engineer manager, like over there, right? So I think when we met, I was a senior developer, and now I had this career change. So a lot of things have changed ever since.
Yeah, we can talk about that. How has been that step from senior developer to engineer manager? Because you stop coding, you start like managing the team, like taking care of the people and trying to figure out the culture that you want to build. How's that changed to you?
Yeah, it's definitely different, right? Like I think when we are developing, it's more like you get a task, you have a deadline, you try to meet the deadline, you try to do your best. And now it's more like, okay, I'm the one creating the task. How can I share with my team so we meet the deadline? So now it's just not you, it's the team. So there's a mental model is totally different. So there was a learning curve. Like, for example, it doesn't matter that much if you're an engineer manager and let's say in a quarter you do a very big project alone. And that's cool, but it's not optimal. Like the big success comes like, okay, you're engineer manager and now your team delivered like 3 to 4 projects in this quarter, and that's amazing, right? So working parallel, it was like my big learning, like how to delegate. I still want to find tasks for myself, but now the priority is my team, their like career. So I want everyone to grow. I want everyone to feel like challenged, feel like busy. And yeah, that's definitely different from just opening VS Code and just hacking your way out.
Yeah, it's a totally different model. One of the things that I was surprised by that you did in our previous job was like you took a lot of independent errands. You did these amazing applications that solve problems, and I identify a lot with that. Did you have the opportunity to do that as an engineer manager?
Oh yeah, I wish that I had more, but what's funny is there's always room for you to present stuff. So now maybe I stopped one step earlier. Like what I'm doing a lot is like presentations. So for example, to give a very, very concrete example, we are migrating from one CMS to another, right? And there is a lot of pages. We have a JSON object, for example, with like 14,000 entries. How do you migrate? Like, how can you present that this is possible? Because if you just come to the C-level, say, hey, we have to migrate. It's going to take, I don't know, like, it could be like a month, two. They're going to say no, right?
They will say no, yeah.
How are you going to do it? And then I can apply some of my skills that I took from developing those solutions. Say, hey, by the way, this is how we start. This is the output. Those are migration scripts. And this is what you can get at the end of the day. So like, I still do, but I don't implement 100% of the solution, right? Like that I have to rely on my team, and they're great. So then it's the difference, right? Like we have to parallelize the latest step, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of the hardest things to do as a developer if you want to continue that path. Like because as a developer you are super hands-on all the time.
Yeah.
But I assume because you have to work two jobs, like, so the engineering manager is the place where you develop your soft skills and all that stuff. Tell me about your other job as a content creator.
Yeah, so I do believe that if I didn't have another job or like another way to create stuff, I would definitely not feel as accomplished as I feel as an engineer manager, right? Because I still like to code. Like this is how I got here, right? It's definitely something that I don't want to get away, because when you're going high up, let's say, like you zoom out a bit, you go to more management stuff, you can run the risk of getting too far from the code that you only know like how to draw architecture, not to really implement. So because of that, I'm still content creator. I'm still creating code, like, and I still like pushing courses and doing a lot of videos every week. For example, like I release more than 10 to some code schools in Brazil. So I have contracts with them. We have projects together. Right now, for example, we are creating a clone of like Netflix. So I went from not only creating the admin panel where you upload the movies and you rate them and you like how you do the whole backend part of it, and the front end client for the company, but also like the client that you're gonna see at the end of the day, right? So it's a full Next.js application with some Elasticsearch and stuff like that. So yeah, that's quite a lot.
Full hands-on, yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you balance this stuff, like having to work as an engineer manager, like 9 to 5 job, and have to create the content every week? Like every week you have to think about the classes, create the videos. How do you do to balance this stuff?
Well, I mean, you have to let it go some things, right? Like you have to set priorities, because like nowadays my agenda is kind of crazy. So I want to create new talks to apply to events. Like, so for example, I create one that I apply to React Day Berlin, JS Colombia, and like as many conferences as I can. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I'm working like a 9 to 5. How can I do that? So I think first is I try to organize my schedule a bit. So I have the dedicated day that I always stop to record, and I try to be as consistent as I can with it. Right? Not every week is possible. So I don't feel bad when I can't. I just try it all the day. But I try to always, record stuff in a pace that's sustainable, right? Because I think the problem with a lot of people joining, trying to create content, they go very hard in the beginning, right? And they think the more they do, the better they will be. Where the game is actually like, it's a marathon, right? Like you have to just be consistent. So you have to understand what is your maximum, right? So I know, for example, for me, the maximum that I can do per week is 10 classes. Like I record 10 videos a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I can tell you how I got there. But, that's my maximum. So I try to operate not at my maximum, because otherwise I'm gonna burn down. I try to go for like 6 videos a week. So that's the sweet spot, I would say. And then I think the second step is to really try to optimize your workflow. So for me, I know like already what we're going to record, and people find this funny when I said that I barely edit my videos at all. Like almost never I edit anything, because I became very good of like press play, do the thing, stop, go to the next video. Like I don't have this notion of perfection, right? Like sometimes I take a little bit more here, a little bit more there, but I find the flow. So now it's literally like I open the OBS, I have the screen here, I have the code here, and I just go for it. Like if I make a mistake, I solve the mistake. I don't try to edit it out, right? Like say, oh, I forgot that, because we are humans, right? And I became very efficient, right? Like so now I'm just press record, pause, next video. No,
you are just bragging right now. No, but actually, I think we are getting to that point that where not all the content has to be like pristine and curated. Yeah, the people allow this type of mistakes, and if you get, I totally agree with you. I used to like super edit my podcast. Like, no, let's cut this space so the phrase goes well and that stuff, and it's like 2-3 hours of work like trying to do that stuff, and it's not really adding that much value to the thing that you are saying.
Yeah, it's the 80-20 rule, right? Like you do 80% of the job, but then the 20% that you want to be perfect, it's going to take 80% of the time. And then this is crazy because, as you say, like it's about delivery value, right? So I think, of course, we can always keep ourselves better. But the way that I think about it is more like, well, I'm probably better than like 100 classes like before. So if I keep doing that, I keep improving myself for the next one and for the next one and for the next one. And I, by all means, like I didn't find the perfect setup. I didn't find like, I'm not perfect at all. Like I do mistakes. I just like, I think make sure that you're always improving and like you don't give up. That's the biggest difference, I think, because now it's going to be a couple of years since I'm creating content, and especially for code schools, right? So that's another difference. Like the mainstream stuff that you're gonna see from me public, it's like the talks, like the meetups and the presentations that I do. But for example, my previous like React course, there was like 300 videos that you have to be in a platform to see, right? So
Yeah,
it's insane.
yeah, it's insane. And how do you feel comfortable to start doing classes and start recording videos? Because in the interview I say like, okay, I have 10 years of experience doing front end and all that stuff, and I have done this type of applications. But at what point you overcome that imposter syndrome and say, I can do this, I can talk about this?
Did you know like what Hulk says at the Marvel movies, like how you transform yourself? It's like, yeah, I'm always angry. So I never feel like I'm prepared. That's it, right? Like I never aim for like, oh, now I'm prepared, like now I can do it. Because this will never come. Like a lot of people, like, if you wait for the perfect moment will be gone. You're probably gonna miss it, right? So the perfect moment's right now. Like probably gonna have everything that you need already, and the only thing is start. And the other thing, I think a lot of people, especially nowadays that we are in a culture that it's maximizing instant gratification, right? Like everyone wants to be a professional, like instantly. And this is also from my background, right? Like I didn't start at coding. I started with music. I was a DJ before, like, so I knew that, well, I gonna suck in the beginning for sure. It's gonna be horrible, but something done, it's better than something that never exists. So you can actually find my first video. It was absolutely crazy. Like I remember that I was almost swallowing the microphone because it was so close to me. And then you can really like see me like sweating, like, oh my god, like I was shaking. But to be honest, like this video, there was a conference that they did online, and I participated, and I did this workshop with React and showing hooks and how to transform your the majority of your code in like reusable hooks. People liked it. I didn't expect this at all. Like I expect everyone to judge me, but everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" Like I finally understood. I was like, "Wow!" So if you like this, I know that I can be better. So let me keep going. Like let's keep doing this. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah, and you started like buying new cameras and doing better stuff.
That came later on. Like I that was because of the pandemic, right? Like that's I was very unhappy with the MacBook webcam, like the 40.
Yeah, we all get to that point at some point of our careers.
Oh my god, yes, that was a no. And then, well, now I'm using a better setup, I would say.
No, but yeah, coming back to that first video, I think it's important to say that, because one of the things I wanted to talk with you about in this podcast is about the path to becoming a content creator, and it's the thing that you want to say is more important than how you say it. I mean, all the technical stuff that you have to say it. Uh, and you say it. I think there is probably people that have more knowledge and have other stuff, but if you put the camera and you start saying it, what you want to say, is you probably will find out your public at some point.
Exactly. Like you shouldn't try to be cool, right? Because if you try to be cool, you're not gonna be cool ever, right?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't aim for like, oh my god, I'm gonna be the best YouTuber or content creator. I'm gonna be the guy like driving React videos or whatever. If you focus on yourself, or like, I want to pass this message, I'm pretty sure that at some point you're gonna find people on the other end that they're gonna tune in and they would like to listen to you. Because again, I think when this uncanny valley, that's very easy to spot when people are trying too hard. Like you see a content and then you just cut it out and try to repropose this content, and you have those, I don't know, like those thumbnails like, is React dead? Or like, oh my god, now server components are the only way. Like you know already that you're probably gonna watch this, but like you're not gonna believe it. And I think my favorite content creators, one, they don't upload that often, but when they do, I'm always learning something, right? So that's what I'm trying to optimize. Like when I'm gonna say something when I really feel that, wow, I have to get this out of the word. Like I have to tell you, like, like maybe it's simple, but I'm pretty sure that someone don't know, so you can like teach people. And second, I think it's something that I wish that someone had told me. Like those are the rules, right? And if you follow those rules, I think it's pretty much you're gonna, with persistence, you're gonna set yourself for success for sure.
Yeah, and I think that honest conversation that you are proposing as a content creator it's actually very important, because you say it like everyone is trying to convince you the next holy grail. Like, no, do not use Next.js, use Astra, do not use this thing, use this other thing, because this is the next big thing, especially in JavaScript, which is a place where everything is changing all the time. And I want to take this opportunity to ask you, how do you keep up to date with all this stuff that is happening to start doing classes?
Well, I think I'm actually very lucky that when I joined the JavaScript train was before it get too fast, right? So because I think at some point, like I have more than 10 years of like experience now, right? At some point it gets a little bit overwhelming with news. Like you see 3 to 4 package managers, or you have one library for fetch and now you have like hundreds. How do you make a conscious decision, right? But I really, really like a quote from a friend of mine that he has this in a book, right? Like, I don't know if you know him, like Zeno Rocha is the creator of like now Resend and also like Dracula, like the theme that everyone uses. He talks about a lot of people see this as FOMO, right? And I see this a lot. People just want to learn everything at every moment. And he presents the JOMO, like the joy of missing out, right? And that's the way that I approach learning new things. So what I do, I take a lot of steps back and say, well, what's the problem I'm trying to solve? Like it's state management. Okay, let me have a look. How is the landscape right now? Then I'm gonna try to bring this to a certain scenario in my life. Like, hey, I can probably use this at work, so I'm probably not gonna look for, like those crazy libraries. Like, probably I would just go with fair, simple, I don't know, Zustand or Redux. Like it's already good enough for what I'm doing. And you would be like very surprised how effective this is, because I don't know everything. Like, for example, I never stopped to learn about GraphQL. I know why is there. I know the pros and cons. I didn't have to make a space in my brain to learn GraphQL because I never had the need, right? And a lot of people, especially some students, like a lot of people ask me this all the time, like, hey, how can I learn this and this and this and that? And I was like, shouldn't you actually start? Yeah, you don't have to, but should you ask actually, how do I land this job? Or how I go to my dream company? Because then it's what we do in programming. Like you reduce the set of all possibilities to like a smaller set that's doable, and then you learn the set. That's it. Then you go to the next one. So instead of trying to do everything at once, you just take a very, very, very small set, you perfect it, and then you keep doing this consistently. So like I think by now I have been navigate through all major like libraries, frameworks, and so on. I know what works and doesn't work for me. So I'm definitely more like when it comes to study, right? Like I always study, but I'm taking my time to really just spend time with things that I think that are like relevant for me, and not just whatever pops up.
Yeah. Obviously, you start doing personal projects. I want to try this and that stuff, but yeah, I totally agree with you, because at some point, when the framework especially started to pop out, I was like, no, how do I keep up? How do I keep up? No, Angular just changed from JS to to proper Angular, and for me it was a crazy moment because I started with jQuery. But yeah, at some point you have to make a decision to start to perfect one thing that you are doing, and for me it's very valuable that you mention your students, because yeah, actually I think we have like this thing that we come before everything that happened, that the train goes that fast. So yeah. I think we have like this opportunity, or we have to give to the path to the new ones, like help them. Okay, maybe you shouldn't take this or this path at this moment. Yeah, no, not just like become sort of mentors to the students. How do you feel like creating this content or becoming that mentor to so much people?
I think, to be honest, 100% honest, I think that's the best aspect of working in tech. I spent, especially like last year, I would say, or the year before, like the whole year, I was much more active on Instagram, for example, right? And I was pretty much every day answering questions, and like it's crazy to receive messages like I'm receiving like on LinkedIn now. They say, hey, I became a tech lead because of you. Thanks a lot. Like, oh, I just discovered your content talking about how it's to, live abroad and make a career for yourself and how to optimize this. Because one thing maybe for the people that are listening, I came from an extremely poor background, the middle of nowhere. My first computer was given to me when I was at university already. And it's not like I'm not that old. So you can say like I didn't have a chance at all. And I didn't have any mentors. Like that was the hardest thing. Like I think I was very lucky. Yeah, I took some risk and I started to learn things by myself. And I took it pretty much like as a detour, right? Like I start in tech and then I went to music and then I came back and I brought all this knowledge. So what I try to do, I try to be this mentor to people and really like trying to help, because I know that's not easy. It only got hard over time. Yeah. And I feel that people nowadays, they really, really struggle with like understanding where they want to go. And for me, it's more like trying to direct them to ask the right questions. So a lot of people ask the dumb questions, in my opinion, of course, but the dumb question would be like, which framework is best, React or Svelte? It's like, what problem are you trying to solve? Like, that's the more important problem, like question. If you just want to study, pick anyone. Anyone is going to teach you a bunch of things. And then when it comes down to this 20% of difference, you're probably going to have a lot of knowledge that you're going to be able to decide by yourself which problem are you solving, right? And it's with careers as well. I think a lot of people ask how can I become a senior? That's not the question, right? Because it's not like we have the framework here. So if you do 3 lines of React, 1 line of CSS, then boom, you're senior. Depends on so many factors, right? Like which company are you? Like how many years of experience do you have? And what projects have you done? Like where is your portfolio? Like so many things. And instead of asking like, hey, maybe you could tell me how you became senior and I can share my experience, and then we can figure out things that I can still learn to get there, right? So It's kind of crazy, but it's so rewarding for me to see that in one way or the other, I was able to help people, because I think that's the most important thing ever. Like, a lot of people, they live in a weird situation in Brazil. Now they came to Europe, and a lot of people that didn't have any chance, now they are transforming the lives and their life of the families because of technology, and that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, yeah. Totally feel you, because it's a similar story for me. Coming from Latin America and coming all these paths to like having this like stable life in Europe, it's like a sort of dream come true, and help others to achieve that little dream. It's very cool. Uh, I want to jump a little bit out of this inspiring talk, and I want to I want to talk about. Do you feel comfortable like creating like the content just in English, or do you like target content in Portuguese just for people from Brazil?
Yeah, so that's still a struggle for me, because it's a lot of overwork. So
Yeah.
right now, I think because Brazil, it's still in this technology boom. Like, there's a lot of people there that are very good developers. A lot of people want to jump into this, like technology train. So for me, that was the easiest step in the beginning. Just like, because a lot of coding school approached me in the first place, but now more and more, and I have stuff coming up that I'm gonna release probably at the end of the year. Now it's been the time that I'm gonna talk a little bit more in English, right? So I think to reach a broad audience, that's definitely necessary. I'm still creating content for both, because I think the way that I can help people from Brazil is different from like just creating a video for European people, US people, and it's definitely like better to reach as many people as you can, but it's challenging. Like, it's not that you can take one script and just translate it,
And just
right?
translate it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I try to do it. It doesn't work.
So everything is different, right? So
Yeah.
I plan to actually create more content in English from like probably, especially in the end of the year. I have idea to release a new course, and I'm gonna talk a lot about like rejection, deal with like interview rejection, how do you prepare yourself, and things that I notice a lot of people are feeling right now, like especially because this macroeconomic situation, that how people are like, oh my god, do I gonna get out of this?
Yeah.
Like, it's over for us. Like, the AI is gonna take over the world. So yeah, to be able to reach those people, I have to, but it's tough. It is definitely tough.
Do you think AI is going to take our jobs?
No, no, no. I think, like, look, we are, as a species, right? Like, we are capable of adapting, and this is what held, like, hold us together so far, right? If you look to any other species, like, we are the ones that our brain, it's really crazy, right? If you stop to think about it, right? Like, we came to a point that if you don't have a limb, there is like some sensors that you can put in your brain, and then you rewire yourself to think that when you're like putting pressure in one feet, your arm move. So, well, I think AI is going to help us a lot. It's going to make things harder for beginners, that's for sure. But it's same as the internet, right? Like, when it came, it democratized like a lot of the knowledge, and suddenly like the world became totally different. I think things will be different, but we definitely gonna find a way to still, right, keep our jobs, or like change to a different stuff. So as long as we are open to new ideas and like to learn stuff, I think we're gonna be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's important to say that message, because there is so much people like freaking out, still freaking out about this, and I did this question to everyone, and I think it's important to say that it's just a tool. It's just a tool
Yeah.
that it's probably a stepping stone in our history as humans, but eventually we are going to overcome it, or be transformed. It's
Yeah.
just a thing.
Just maybe the question is how many new jobs are gonna appear because of AI, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
now
I
creativity is
heard
your limit.
yeah, I heard an analyst saying that if you ask someone at the end, before the Industrial Revolution, what job he is going to have in 2000s, he's not going to say web developer. Yeah,
Exactly.
because he doesn't know. This is something that didn't exist at that moment, and this is something that is going to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
And talking about those new technologies and new stuff, where do you see the market moving now? Because you mentioned that, okay, there is a lot of people being rejected right now in the interviews. There is like more pressure, especially like people saying that you have to have a lot of experience in one thing that has like 1 year in the market, things like that. But where do you see the market moving right now for developers in general?
Okay, so it's hard to predict exactly how the market will react to certain things. I think the better to look at the market is to look what you want to get out of the market, right? Like I think jobs will still be there. They still like the way that we consume technology didn't change. We need developers. We need people to even like to get the output from the AI and create something, right? So I would see that more and more you should actually embrace those things. So when I see the market for developers, well, I think React has a huge consolidation. I don't see this moving anytime. Like I think big companies are still like using like company enterprise. I'm talking about a lot of micro frontends, for example. I think that's super cool technology, and I know I cannot talk too much about it because I have an NDA. But I would look out for like micro frontends. Also, like pretty soon, I think there will be some crazy stuff happening. Like I got some early access to some exciting tools, and I'm crazy to talk about them. But I right now I can't. But I can promise you that's very interesting. Like the type of problems that we're trying to solve nowadays also has changed. So instead of like, oh, how can I make my page more dynamic? I think you can look for companies like, I don't know, so like Amazon and say, wow, how can I make my teams more efficient by being able to have so many applications running in like individual containers at the same time, the same page. So frameworks doesn't matter anymore, and we have everything kind of real time. How can we do that? So now this is definitely more exciting, and I think that this is the direction that we are going.
Yeah, and yeah, I think probably we are becoming more agnostic. In backend, it happens with serverless. You know, like you can create a function or a little service that works independently and do that thing that you needed. And I think in front end we are like looking for something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's funny because all of those big frameworks, they all talk with each other, right? So like Angular with React, with Vue.js, with Svelte, and they are targeting like very specific crowds now, like where they really have the need for like tiny things. But the main concepts, they are being shared, and we are only being benefited by it. So, you know, this whole concept of Shadow DOM was, I don't know if React came up with this first, but they definitely popularized it. Now everyone is doing it. And I think Angular has a lot of things to bring to the table and comes down to like, okay, how we fit this whole flexibility to an enterprise culture. Like it's a different tool set, and I think also React learned with the new version of Create React App, right? Like with the new updates there, that well, that's not a thing that we can just throw there and say, well, you build it, and that's definitely something that now I think is the best time ever to, you know, use those tools because they are like literally like bring the whole web dev one step forward, and that's amazing.
But you don't have this fear of like having lost this standard culture that we have before. Like we have like the standard for CSS, for HTML, all this stuff, and with all these frameworks and all these tools, don't you think that we are losing like these agreements that we have in the past?
Like how? You mean that before we had like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and that was it? So,
Yeah. Because right now, I mean, but it happened a couple of years ago. But we have the problem with React that it was like sort of proprietary and that stuff. Like maybe we are losing a little openness of with all the tools.
yeah, maybe, but you know, for the other hand, there's always like, did you? I don't know if you're in the loop with the whole Terraform kind of like problem that they did exactly this, right? They started as a free open source framework that a lot of people, Amazon use like crazy, right? And now they say, oh, by the way, all of those big companies, they are making so much money with our free framework that now the framework's not free anymore. That's like pulling the carpet, right? But then the next day, a fork just emerge, like say, hey, that's free Terraform. And then I think the same, right? You have React and you have Jason Miller like interpretation of React called Preact, right? Which is efficient for different type of things, but like very close. I don't think we are losing software because we are like hidden behind somewhere. I think we are like really trying to share, and of course we have to be careful so the corporation culture doesn't eat all of this, because Microsoft, like they own pretty much everything now, like in terms of software, like from the NPM to GitHub to VS Code to LinkedIn. So they have the whole pipeline and OpenAI. So we have to be careful, but we still have so many problems that we can solve. And there is definitely space for more innovation there. So I'm still optimal.
Okay. I am a little bit not that optimal as you, but but I think it's an interesting discussion. But definitely, I think one thing that I think is important is this is like getting more mature every time. Like the job is getting more mature, it's getting more specialized, and it's hard to predict. As you say, it's hard to predict where it's going. But
I mean, if you look back, before the main challenge was like, well, I just want this little text here to just scroll along the page, right? That was it. And then we said, okay, we have CSS, and this is going to save us all. And it was definitely not easy. And then I think the challenge became more complex. It became like, okay, now we need real-time applications. And we have backend, like I think Rails, when it came, they really like did a whole revolution on like, okay, this is how you do like render on the server. And you could say, yeah, that's the stop line. Like that's, that's already like the industry standard. It was like GitHub, the whole platform was made with Ruby and Rails. And then we changed the problem space again to say, well, by the way, there's a lot of interactive that we are missing in the client because we have to wait to go to the server. If anything goes wrong, we have this blank page. It's not optimal. Then Angular came, like Knockout and like jQuery, and they tried to solve the problems, and then we still like not satisfied with the speed. We create like, okay, now we have React, now we have like so many frameworks, and now we are going back with Next.js, for example, say, by the way, maybe we can do this crossover of Rails, JavaScript, PHP, and just bundle them together, and you have Next.js that does everything, does for APIs, does front-end code, client code. So the problem space is always like getting ahead of us. Like now we're going to think like, okay, how can I put the whole thing in the blockchain, or how can I do this and connect with people instantly using some like new science that was just discovered, right? So as long as we're innovating, I think there will be always problems to solve.
yeah, totally. And the applications eventually are becoming more and more complex all the time. Yeah. And bring new ideas. I am super excited of what we can achieve with JavaScript, which was like 10 years ago wasn't that polish, like applications like Figma, applications like this Riverside where we are doing the podcast right now. It's like before that you have to install something in your computer to do that, and now you can create it. You can create it with your alums in a course. You can create a Netflix clone.
Can you just imagine if you go a little bit way back, like to be able to have this conversation at this level, like we would have to be in a like radio station, basically, like with microphones, with setup technicians, like tens of people, like just having the setup ready so we can record. Then to release was a different thing. We literally just clicked to the link, start to record. We are just doing it. I'm at home right now, like, and like we are in the different parts of the world at the moment, and we are having this conversation. So it's crazy how we evolve. Like, it's crazy how this whole thing comes, and like it or not, this is being powered by JavaScript now. So, yeah, we made it.
Yeah, we made it. The most confusing of all the languages made it.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I totally agree with you because actually, as an anecdote, my Spanglish is getting worse every time. I tried to start an internet radio with some friends when I was like 15. And yeah, we have to get together in a house, and the transmission wasn't that great. No video, obviously. It's and at that point, I don't think we use any web application because there wasn't any, probably, or yeah.
If you, when like the real time communications on the web became like a standard, that was such a leap forward. You can apply this to everywhere, right? First of all,
Yep.
Can you imagine that before, not long ago, I would say like 50 years ago, if you want to get the data from your bank, you have to go there to an agency, right? Like you have to walk into the agency, ask for the extract. They will have like little ATMs there. Now you take your phone.
You take your phone and you have all the information. You can do a transfer. I mean, there are part of the world that you can do it, but you can do a transfer like instantly. But it's good that you get to the bank example because the banks have this problem of COBOL right now that they have a lot of the ancient technology. Do you think there is some point in the future that we are going to have this problem with JavaScript? That like there is this ancient JavaScript technology?
Oh yes. I hope so. I hope that JavaScript become legacy because if the last language would be JavaScript, I would be so sad, right? Like I don't want to stop here. Like there's so many points to improve. So yes, I hope so that at some point we're gonna look back and say, "Oh, that was JavaScript. That's such a silly language." I mean, it took us very far, but now we have JavaScript 2.0, or like TypeScript just become the standard, or even a next thing. I don't know, LiveScript, BabeScript, whatever it be.
Whatever we created. No, I think that this is great to have this conversation and to think about the future. I love to have you here, Vitor. I think it's great to have all this experience. I want to close talking a little bit about the tools that you use to create. You just mentioned off mic that like having these tools have helped you like land a new job. And how do you? I mean, yeah. How do you use these tools beyond like the content creation process?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a pro tip for everyone. I think when Steve Jobs said, like you're gonna connect the dots at some point, that's very much true. Because how come a DJ, take his experience, his music experience to tech, then I start to create content and I take this to get a job, right? How do I do that? I think it's really like you have so many things that you're going to learn along the way. So by doing videos, like I did so many now, that I changed the way that I talk. I changed the way that I think about stuff, how I present ideas, how I approach concepts. And this set of skills can be translated to my job, right? Especially because as an engineer manager, I have to explain things. So you never know. Like you're probably going to think that you can be wasting time if you're creating and, not getting nowhere, but you never know who's watching. And to give a very concrete example, I was creating content about module federation, right? I post a little snippet because I found such a cool thing with like self-healing apps, so apps that could break and then restart themselves. I post this on LinkedIn. Then someone literally sent me a message, "Hey, by the way, we have this meetup. Do you want to participate?" And I went there. And because of this, they record a video, they release the video, and then someone say, "Hey, you should participate also like this meetup here with Prisma Meetup here in Berlin." I said, cool. Yeah, that looks nice. Like, because this person saw my video, right? And then I went there and say, hey, if you have a slot, I would love to participate. And they were fully booked at the time. But I sent a message anyway. I just, because, you know, like, you never know. I say, yeah, just if you need someone, let me know. Happy to join, happy to share. And one day before, they sent me a message, hey, by the way, one of the speakers just canceled. Are you up to just still do your presentation? I said, yes, let's go. It turns out the video did perform pretty well. Like, I was there for the meetup, but there were camera crew recording it. I didn't know that they have this, right? So I had to present, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my best job here. Because of that, when I went back to the market, right? When we worked together at the same company, but at some point I just decided that I want to take a different challenge, right? So as soon as I opened my profile, some approached me and say, hey, I want you to participate in the interview because I saw this video, it looks amazing. I didn't know at the time, but I went to the whole process. I did the whole process. And my first day in the company, everyone was like, oh, I know you. You're the Module Federation guy. I was like, how did you know me? Like our VP of engineering was showing this video. He was like, oh, I don't believe that we hired this guy, right? Like he's like there, like creating the videos. And I was like, man, you never know you're gonna connect the dots. Like, so I didn't connect at the time, but be able to be a tech lead, the engineer manager is so important to be out there and talk about things. So your presentation skills matter. So now I want to keep doing this because a lot of companies, they still like reach out to me because they saw it. They already like talk with you differently. They say, hey, by the way, I know that you create a lot of content. Do you want to be a DevRel? Do you want to be this, that? And before was me running and trying to find like a place in those companies. Was me like sending messages and say, hey, I know like I saw the job offer, I would like to apply. And I mean, I know that's really tough. It comes with time, but like being the other side, it really helps. And this is because I'm taking everything that I learn and I'm applying to the content creation, to my daily job, and I'm trying to connect the dots as I go. So everything that you learn, it can be used. Even though if you don't see it right now, you're probably going to use the knowledge for something at some point that's going to help you to move to the next stage.
Yeah. And especially when you start combining these experiences from different parts of what you do. Like, I don't know, for example, when I was very young, I loved to do like PowerPoint presentations just because I like PowerPoint. And now I use that to make presentations for my jobs. And I totally connect with you about that because, yeah, you start to connect the dots just backwards, but you keep doing it.
Yep.
And if you keep doing it, eventually you will get to the point that you want to be.
Exactly, 100%.
Vitor, thank you very much. Thank you very much to participate in the podcast. I would love to chat with you. And I don't know if you have a final word to everyone that's listening, to invite them to follow you and that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to, send questions, talk with me, like you can find me pretty much everywhere. I'm also very happy that I was able to secure my nickname everywhere in every platform. So it's Vitor Alencar, right? So it's just me. So GitHub, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, right? Like just add me in all those social media. If anyone wants to talk more, feel free to do so. I'm always happy to, exchange ideas and help the others and learn from the others. So that's where you can find me. And yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. So anytime that you need this, just send me a message. I'll be here.
Okay, thank you very much. I will put the links to Vitor profile in the description of the episode. Thanks for listening. Please follow on Instagram as Cesaros. I secure my nickname also as well. And see you in the next one. Bye-bye.